Damn, why the hell is it so dark? That's better. Okay. Hello, Jacksonites. Pardon the 2-week-long absence. Fuck. Hopefully, hopefully that'll work. Um, well, 2 weeks ago was my birthday, so I had myself a big ass celebration regarding it. I am now 26 years of age, and that means I've been doing videos on this channel, I think, for about 7 years now. Damn. And also last week I meant to do a video, but whole family came down with seasickness. Like food poisoning or some kind of fucking stomach flu or some shit. So yeah, I've had a rough week. But fret not. I also was kind of happy that this video has taken 2 weeks to be released because I wanted to watch this movie twice in order to really get my full grasp of my opinion on it, which I have. Today, welcome back to Super Kaiju Binge, episode 42. And today is a big doozy, a big giant landmark in the history of kaiju films. The very first time that we will ever get a rematch between two Titanic titans throughout the years of cinema, and a movie that many kaiju fans have been waiting for to see for literal decades. Today, by myself this time, I actually wanted to do this one by myself because I have a lot to say about this movie that's both good and bad, and I just don't really want any interruptions. I just want to go through it in one fell swoop. So and because today is quite the big doozy of a movie. So today I will be reviewing the fourth film in Legendary Pictures Monsterverse, 2021's Godzilla versus Kong. Yes, indeed, folks. Godzilla vs. Kong is the movie that so many people, like myself, have been waiting for so long. Alrighty, so we got a lot to unpack here. Godzilla vs. Kong is a 2021 American monster film directed by Adam Wingard. It is a sequel to Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters. It is the fourth film in Legendary Pictures' Monsterverse, the 36th film in the Godzilla franchise, and the 12th film in the King Kong franchise, and the fourth Godzilla movie to be completely produced by an American film studio. The film stars an ensemble cast, notably Alexander Skarsgård, Millie Bobby Brown, Rebecca Hall, and Brian Tyree Henry, amongst many others. In the film, Kong clashes with Godzilla after humans move the ape from Skull Island to the Hollow Earth, homeworld of the monsters known as Titans, to retrieve a power source for a secret weapon intended to stop Godzilla's mysterious rampages. This project was announced in October of 2015 when Legendary Pictures declared plans for a shared cinematic universe between Godzilla and King Kong. The film's writer's room was assembled in March of 2017, and Adam Wingard was announced as the director in May of 2017. After being long delayed from a November 2020 release date due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Godzilla vs. Kong was theatrically released internationally March 24th and in the United States on March 31st, where it was also released on HBO Max simultaneously. The film received generally positive reviews from critics with praise for its visual effects and action sequences, but criticism towards the human characters. It broke several pandemic box office records and grossed $470 million worldwide against a production budget between 155 to $200 million, making it the eighth highest grossing film of 2021. The film was a massive streaming hit as well, becoming the most successful launch title in HBO Max's history until it was overtaken by Mortal Kombat 2021. A sequel, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, is scheduled to be released on March 15th, 2024. Personal history for Godzilla versus Kong. Well, holy shit. So, when this was announced, I almost didn't believe it. Um, this just seemed like something that would just be too goddamn true or good to be true. It still kind of is. But when this was announced, I of course was excited. I was like, "Oh my fucking god." To quote David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorzard, "Yep, right now is a really nice time to be a Godzilla fan." Um, I was unbelievably excited for this movie, but I bided my time. Watched Kong Skull Island, loved it, of course. Watched Godzilla 2014, loved it. Watched um, King of the Monsters, of course, loved it. So I was like, okay, now we're about to get Godzilla versus Kong. So at the time, of course, when Super Kaiju Binge was really in its heyday, I had a massive circle of, well, I still do, but we were much more involved. Me, Jackie Boy, Shawnee Boy, Ryan, Trevor Boy at the time. We were all insanely anxiously awaiting the release of that goddamn trailer for Godzilla versus Kong. Um, we were all just itching and dying and so badly anxiously waiting for this goddamn trailer to be released during COVID times. And as tiny snippets of footage were being released leading up to the release of that trailer, we just knew something was coming. And then the trailer finally dropped, and all of our jaws hit the fucking floor. I awoke and I got link after link from all the Kaiju squad, as I call them. Um, and I watched it on my big ass TV with Meadow right next to me. And me and Meadow were just like smiling and very giddy with excitement. We were absolutely itching for this movie. Sadly, I did not see this in theaters. This is the only Monsterverse movie that I have not seen in theaters because at the time, this was still during massive COVID times. My local theater that I live right next to was still closed. That theater was closed for damn near 2 years. So, um, but you bet your ass I saw this movie. I have HBO Max, so I watched it the night that it debuted. I got home from I got home from work, and the night that it was going to be released, we had pizza, we had drinks, we sat on the couch, and we started up Godzilla versus Kong the second it dropped. And I was disappointed. Yep, it's going to be one of those videos, guys. I'm not going to even remotely bury the lead and bury the hatchet with this one. This is my least favorite Monsterverse movie. Yep, I said that for Godzilla 2014, but after watching this movie 3 times, I watched it um the first night that it debuted. Well, sorry, I have a lot to say. Yeah, I watched it the night that it debuted, didn't touch it again for a few reasons. I did rewatch a lot of scenes from it over since then, and I just kind of kept letting it stew on me for a while. So I rewatched it a second time 2 weeks ago. Kind of liked it a little bit less. And then I rewatched it last night. I did enjoy it more, but my flaws with this movie have been firmly cemented. I really hate to have it be one of those days, but unfortunately, Godzilla vs. Kong was kind of disappointing. Now, let me get this out of the way. There is a lot to like about Godzilla vs. Kong. It's got some of the greatest things in kaiju cinema that we've ever seen. It's got some of the best moments that we've ever seen in the kaiju genre. But unfortunately, this movie has some crippling flaws that severely hamper this movie from achieving its full potential. Jackie boy, keep your mouth shut in the chat over there. I know where you live. I will track your ass down and whip you. Keep it shut. Just bear with me. I have a lot to say about this movie that, like I said, is both good and bad. Um, I do like this movie. Let me get this out of the way. There is a lot that I like about this movie, but unfortunately, and I've met plenty of people who absolutely love this movie. Like Lord Hellhound has told me this is his favorite of the Monsterverse. My friend Victoria, who watched this movie twice with me, the second and third time, she says this is her favorite of the Monsterverse. I've met lots of people who are big fans of this movie, and that's cool. There is a lot to like. Just unfortunately, it's got some crippling flaws. Yes, I agree. Like what Jackie Boy is saying, I like it, but King of the Monsters is better. King of the Monsters is a way better movie, in my opinion. All right, so let's get into the plot of Godzilla vs. Kong. Oh, before we begin, a word from our sponsor. 5 years after the dragon-like extraterrestrial King Ghidorah awakened giant monsters known as Titans around the world and was defeated by Godzilla, Kong is monitored by Monarch within a giant dome on Skull Island, which has been taken over by the storm that previously kept it hidden from the rest of the world. Kong is visited by Gia, the last Iwi native and adopted daughter of Kong expert Eileen Andrews, who is deaf and communicates with Kong via sign language. Bernie Hayes, the guy from the funny black police officer from Child's Play 2019, an employee of Apex Cybernetics and host of a Titan conspiracy podcast, extracts data suggesting sinister activities at Apex's Pensacola facility. However, Godzilla suddenly attacks the facility, and Bernie stumbles upon a massive device during the rampage. Madison Russell, a listener of Bernie's podcast, enlists Josh, her friend Josh Valentine, to investigate Godzilla's attacks. Apex CEO Walter Simmons recruits Nathan Lind, played by Alexander Skarsgård, a former Monarch scientist and Hollow Earth theorist, to help guide a search for a power source in the Hollow Earth, the homeworld of the Titans. Lind is initially hesitant as his brother died in an expedition to the Hollow Earth due to a strong reverse gravitational effect, but he agrees after Walter reveals that Apex has developed Heaves, Hollow Earth aerial. Is that what it's called? Hollow Earth aerial vehicle, specialized crafts able to withstand the pressure exerted by the gravity field. Lynn convinces Andrews to let Kong guide them through the Hollow Earth via an outpost in Antarctica. Nathan, Eileen, and an Apex team led by Simmons' daughter, Maya, board a modified barge escorted by the U.S. Navy that carries a sedated and restrained Kong. Godzilla attacks the convoy and defeats Kong, but retreats after these ships disable their power and trick him into thinking that they are destroyed. To avoid alerting Godzilla, Kong is airlifted to the Hollow Earth entrance, and Gia convinces him to enter the tunnel while the team follows him in the heaves. Madison and Josh find Bernie, who joins their investigation. They they sneak into the wrecked Apex base, discover a secret facility underground, and are inadvertently locked into an underground Hyperloop type transport to Apex headquarters in Hong Kong, where they unwittingly stumble on a test of Mecha Godzilla. It is telepathically controlled by Ren Serizawa, the son of the late Ishiro Serizawa, through the neural networks from the skull on a severed Ghidorah head, but is hobbled by its power supply's limitations. Walter intends to harness the Hollow Earth's energy to overcome Mechagodzilla's limitations. Inside the Hollow Earth, Kong and the team find an ecosystem similar to Skull Island. They discover his species' ancestral throne room, where they find remains of an ancient war with Godzilla's kind and a glowing axe made from other Godzilla's dorsal plates. As they identify the power source, the Apex team sends its signature back to their Hong Kong base, despite Andrew's protests. Attracted by Mechagodzilla's activation, Godzilla arrives in Hong Kong. Sensing Kong and the Hollow Earth's energy, Godzilla directly drills a shaft to the throne room with his atomic breath. Maya and the Apex team attempt to escape in the ensuing mayhem, but their heave is crushed by Kong. Kong, Andrews, Gia, and Lind ascend to Hong Kong, where Kong engages Godzilla in a final battle. Kong initially gains the upper hand, however, Godzilla emerges victorious after incapacitating and defeating Kong for the second time. Madison, Josh, and Bernie are caught by security and taken to Simmons. Despite Ren's concerns over the power source's volatility, Simmons orders him to activate Mechagodzilla. Now possessed by Ghidorah's consciousness, Mechagodzilla kills Simmons, electrocutes Ren, engages Godzilla in battle, and quickly, woefully, pathetically overpowers the fuck out of him. Lind revives Kong by destroying the heave on his chest as a makeshift defibrillator, and Gia convinces him to help Godzilla. As Mechagodzilla overpowers both Titans, Josh short circuits Mechagodzilla's controls with Bernie's flask of liquor on its control panel, momentarily interrupting the mech. Godzilla charges Kong's axe with his atomic breath, allowing Kong to destroy Mechagodzilla all by himself. Madison, Bernie, and Josh reunite with Madison's father, Mark. Oh, yeah, Kyle Chandler's in this movie. While Godzilla and Kong agree to a truce and go their separate ways. Sometime later, Monarch has established an observation post in the Hollow Earth where Kong now rules. Alrighty, so what? Jack, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So, how about this plot? It's actually my first pro, similar to King of the Monsters. Well, I don't like the plot nearly as much as King of the Monsters or even Skull Island. I do like the plot. There's a lot going on here, and there is, again, a lot to like. Every Monsterverse movie has its own distinct feel. 2014 is like a dark disaster movie. Kong Skull Island is a jungle adventure film. King of the Monsters is a mythic, giant, epic monster apocalypse. Godzilla vs. Kong is like a big, epic sci fi movie, which is much appreciated. It's admirable that a franchise can have multiple installments and each one is very different in its own way, but it all feels inconsistently consistent. It still all feels like it's the same franchise, and they all feel like, this is a sequel to that, that's a sequel to that. It all does click as its own continuous thing, but it's nice that each one has its own feel. Again, this one is very sci-fi ish. One big aspect that I do like about this plot, it's very similar to King Kong Escapes. Um, Kong is airlifted to Antarctica to go down a giant hole to recover some kind of underground energy source. And Kong escapes and ends up fighting some kind of giant robot that was created by a mostly black wearing, foreign accented, giant slick back, black and gray fro looking dude. Yeah, the plot is quite similar to not like as similar, like not quite as much as how King of the Monsters is so similar to Gamera 2, but this does feel like it took a lot of inspiration from King Kong Escapes. As a fan of King Kong Escapes, I can appreciate that, um, which I do. Unfortunately, though, it's got some problems, and I can't really talk about any of them until I get to my cons. But I will say I do like the plot for the movie overall. Another aspect about it, it does do a good job in justifying having Godzilla and Kong fight each other throughout the movie. It doesn't feel arbitrary or forced or just here for the sake of such. Um, it's more along the lines of something like Alien versus Predator. Um, it's a good creature feature plot, to quote Trevor Boy, which is much appreciated. Um, yeah, I like it. I don't have as much to say about it as I thought, but yeah, I do like the movie's plot. Um, so there's that. Pro number 2, right off the bat, is the Hollow Earth itself. I am a big fan of the Hollow Earth as a concept. This is the first, it's been hinted at in like Kong Skull Island, and I think a couple of the Monsterverse comics, but this is the first time that we really saw it in full. And to quote Jackie Boy down here, Hollow Earth does look very similar in some ways to Pandora from Avatar. And it definitely feels like a massive homage to Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is appreciated. Another aspect of this movie that feels very sci-fi-ish. This is like a way out there concept and a whole new type of thing that we've seen. But it works, and I really like Hollow Earth as a whole. I like the concept. I like its design. I like the appearance. It once again, like Skull Island itself, it feels alien. It feels brand new, but it's still on Earth, and it looks vaguely familiar to Earth. And but that's still what makes it feel so alien and otherworldly. But I love it, and it feels like um, and it feels like a perfect habitat for something like Kong to inhabit, which is much appreciated. And it opens up a whole bunch of possibilities for future movies to explore, which is nice. Pro number three is Godzilla himself. I have one major problem with Godzilla in this movie. But when he is on screen, of course, Godzilla is a sight to behold. He's more or less just kind of doing his own thing, being a big giant lizard that stomps on shit, destroys planes, and shoots down buildings. But he's still a lot of fun to watch. He's not quite as personable as he was in King of the Monsters, unfortunately. But there are still scenes where there are still Jack, you need to stop. You're distracting me. There are still scenes where you can see the evolution of his personality, and you can, see him emote, read his body language, and tell that Godzilla is not just being a mindless monster for the sake of such. You do get the sense that there is reason for his attacks in the movie, and you along with the characters in the movie are just like, okay, so why is Godzilla just attacking out of nowhere? There's got to be some kind of explanation for it. And it is intriguing trying to find out what is going on with Godzilla along with the characters. um, there's not much to say about Godzilla in this movie, but when he is on screen, of course, he is a lot of fun to watch. So this will lead me to pro number four. It's both a good and a massive good thing, but it is kind of a bad thing. Hands down, the highlight of this movie is Kong. Kong is awesome in this movie. I still do prefer Kong in Kong Skull Island, but how he's showcased in this movie, he is a true sight to behold. He is a 100% 350 or 360-degree character in this movie. He is a fully fleshed out, like, this is Kong reached to his full potential, in my opinion. He's a complete juggernaut powerhouse badass. Um, he's very personable. He's a little humorous. Um, he can speak sign language, which is, I'm sure, something that people have been wanting to see Kong do for decades because he is a great ape. Um, His facial expressions are absolutely fantastic. You can read his body language, you can read his face and his eyes, especially. Kong is the best character in this movie without a shadow of a doubt. If you are definitely Team Kong, this is the movie for you, in my opinion. Um, is I can't really talk about that, but yeah, Kong is definitely the highlight of this movie. He is great. He's a lot of fun to watch. The effects on him are great. His relationship with like Gia and the rest of the human characters is really fun to watch. His fights with Godzilla are great. Um, if you're Team Kong, this movie is for you. Pro number five is Mechagodzilla. A very big, giant, pleasant surprise in this movie. This design for Mechagodzilla is not my favorite. I'd probably say it's probably my third favorite Mechagodzilla. It is still really, really cool though. I really like it. It's very not steampunk, but its design does look sort of steampunk esque in some ways. Um, I like that this is the first villainous Mechagodzilla that we've had, like fully villainous Mechagodzilla, pretty much since 1975. But in some ways, this is a way better villainous Mechagodzilla because this isn't just a mindless, autonomous robot. This is a cyborg, and it's a well, not really a cyborg, but it's a fully sentient, fully um, conscious and self-aware killing machine villain, which I really like. It is Mechagodzilla taken over by Ghidorah's consciousness, which I really like. I guess in that way you could kind of make it a cyborg, but still. Um, I love this Mechagodzilla's power set. It's kind of simple, but you know, shoulder cannons that fire missiles, chest cannons that fire missiles, lots of missiles with this Mechagodzilla. A a fully prehensile tail that has a spinning blade on it, a la the Dragon Zord from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And of course, its own equivalent to Godzilla's atomic breath, the red proton scream cannon, which is a total sight to behold. Mechagodzilla does make a very good first impression when he arises out of the ground and is activated for the first time. He's able to kill a fully grown 60-meter tall skull crawler by completely slicing it in half with its proton scream at only a 40% powered beam. You're just like, oh, fuck. That's cool. Um, this is also probably the most uh, like fierce Mechagodzilla in terms of its hand-to-hand combat skills because it has energetically charged fists and feet. And he just fucking beats the ever-living shit out of Godzilla and Kong. And it just never stops, just keeps on going, just like a robot. Just keeps going and going and going and going. It's kind of an unofficial callback to well, actually, no, you can't really say that because this Kong or this Mechagodzilla is a lot quicker. But it does bring to mind King Kong Escapes. The real Kong seems quicker. My Kong won't tire. Yeah, Mechagodzilla won't tire either. Um, Mechagodzilla is great. Nope, not gonna say that yet. It's got one pressing problem with it though. But when Mechagodzilla is on screen and he's tearing shit up, he is a true sight to behold. Okay. Pro number 6. Yeah, 6 is the humor. This movie is pretty damn funny in some places. It mostly has to do with the character of Bernie. He's a very fast, very smooth, very witty, very fast talker. But he's absolutely hilarious. He comes up with these really witty quips on the snap of a finger. Um, he knows how to think on his feet in a funny way. He comes up with all these funny nicknames for people. Like he calls Josh Tapwater. um, you can definitely tell that the actor playing Bernie is well, he probably is a Godzilla fan, but he's definitely just a fan of playing weird, funny characters as he does in every other movie that I've seen him in, like in Child's Play 2019. He's funny. He's a lot of fun. Mostly, yeah, it has to do with him. There's a couple other funny moments. Um, but yeah, Bernie's funny. Probably the third funniest Monsterverse movie. Yeah. Because this movie does take itself a bit more seriously than others. Pro number 7, I think. Fuck. Yeah, 7 Pro number 7. This hands down is the most colorful Monsterverse movie. There are so many pretty visuals to look at in this movie. There's lots of bright blues, yellows, oranges, reds, purples. Um, there are lots of very bright, vibrant, pretty colors to look at. Mechagodzilla is a bright, glowing red. Godzilla glows blue for a good chunk of this movie. Hollow Earth has lots of blues and reds and yellows. When Godzilla and Kong fight in Hong Kong, there's tons of neon lights blasting all over the place. Um, this is definitely the most visually appealing Monsterverse movie, in my opinion. Not my favorite. That's still King of the Monsters, but this is definitely the most colorful Monsterverse movie. It's very pleasant to look at. Pro number 8 is the monster action. There is plenty of action in this movie, which is much appreciated. We first have Godzilla's fight in Apex Cybernetics, which is a fun little rampage. First time that we've really seen this version of Godzilla just go on a full-on rampage in a city. But it's a lot of fun. It feels like classic Showa era Godzilla, just him going around batting and shooting down planes and blowing up buildings. It's fun. Then we have Godzilla and Kong's first fight in the Tasman Sea. It's great. It's very well choreographed. It's very big, and bombastic and explosive. It's very hard hitting and vicious and a lot of fun. We have Kong's trek to the Hollow Earth and his rampage, or not rampage, but his trek through the Hollow Earth. I kind of consider that to be, it's both an action scene, but it's also like a big exploration scene. But during the Hollow Earth adventure, Kong fights two creatures called warbats, giant snakes with wings. And that's a really cool fight too. It's a bit short, but it's really cool in my opinion. There's two. Kong kills the first warbat by yanking it on its tail and slamming the motherfucker down on the ground and impaling its skull with a really sharp stone. Then he yanks it up and swings it around and clobbers the second warbat. But then it springs up and pounces on Kong and then constricts him. Uh, with some assistance from the heave, Kong then grabs it by its neck, smashes it to the ground, crushes its wings down, and then flings it all over the place. And then, like gorilla, pounds it into the ground, smashing it. And then, for good measure, tears its fucking head off and then starts eating its brains. It's so visceral and vicious and so badass. Kong is a lot older in this movie, obviously, because of his giant beard and his much less hair throughout his body, and he's got some gray hair too. But he still is one utter tank powerhouse in this movie. So he's still a lot of fun. Then we have Kong's second fight with Godzilla, in which Kong is the victor. He grabs a hold of his battle axe. He charges it with Godzilla's atomic breath, and he brings it crashing down onto Godzilla's head, creating a massive shockwave, which gives victor to Kong. But not before grappling Godzilla's head and neck, and kicking it, punching it, and giving him a big, giant double gorilla punch, and then a big drop kick that sends Godzilla flat on his ass. And also before taking his battle axe and smashing it deep into Godzilla's thigh. The second fight is definitely way more in Kong's favor. But also, one thing I love about the Godzilla and Kong dynamic in this movie, similar to the original King Kong versus Godzilla, they still established that even though this is a much larger Kong, Kong in this movie is 102 meters in height, more than twice the size of the original Showa Kong. Kong is the speedster of the two. Godzilla in this movie is the big giant tank juggernaut. Kong is much more agile and he's much faster than Godzilla. He's able to dance circles around Godzilla and keep moving um, on two legs, on four legs. He can jump high, he can jump from building to building. But Godzilla is the more sluggish of the two, but he's still got the muscle and power to take on Kong when he gets his hands on him. Speaking of which, the next scene, my favorite scene in the whole movie, is Godzilla's defeat of Kong. At this point is when so Kong makes the mistake of getting in Godzilla's personal space. Godzilla chomps down on Kong's arm, fucking suplexes him over his shoulder, stomps on him, bites onto his arm, and sends Kong flying hundreds of blocks, dislocating his arm. Then Godzilla tries to bite him again, face plants into a building, but then just whacks him with his tail. Then starts crawling on him on all fours, bites his foot, and then like fucking body slams Kong into the ground and starts slicing the shit out of his chest with his claws, and then just fucking stomps on Kong's chest and just like crushes his foot into Kong's chest and finishes it off by I'll save that for a second, but Godzilla overwhelms Kong by through his sheer tenacity. Um, oh, good for you. I don't. Those are two of my least favorites. Um, but yeah, the third fight between Godzilla and Kong is my favorite scene in the movie. It's fucking entertaining as fuck and so satisfying as a Godzilla fan to see Godzilla win against Kong. So during the production and the release of this movie, Adam Wingard did say a few times in interviews that this is not going to cop out and either do a tie or like one of those nobody won endings in so many other crossover ideas that people had. Um, Adam Wingard did state that there would be a definitive winner between the two. And I like how this movie does it. Just because, like, nobody has to die necessarily for somebody to win. Godzilla doesn't kill Kong, he just defeats him. So, yeah, Godzilla was definitely the winner in this movie against Kong. But then they kind of fuck it up. But whatever, I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah. And then of course there is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which is my least favorite scene in the entire movie. And then there's Kong and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. We're mostly just Kong versus Mechagodzilla. It's cool, but I have one serious problem with it. But hold on. Okay, yeah. Pro number 9 is the amazing special effects. Not really much to say about the special effects. To wrap up though on the monster action too, it's really good. All the monster action in this movie is a lot of fun to watch. This movie is very quickly paced and it's very action packed. So if that's up your alley, you'll be very happy, as I was. But the special effects, not much to say other than they're fantastic. There's no poor special effects here whatsoever. All the sets and designs look really good. The production value is top notch. The Ghidorah skull looks great. I think that, well, yeah, it was a real, actual, practical piece, and it looks fantastic. It looks like the skull for King Ghidorah, so that's really cool. Um, but all the CGI is flawless. The green screen effects are great. Composite shots are really good. The camera work and cinematography is really good. Um, the Godzilla design is reused from the last movie, but that's okay for the most part. I do like that design a lot, so it does flow very nicely into this movie, and it looks really, really great. All the explosions look great. The fire effects look great. Kong looks fantastic. This is the one thing that I will throw a bone to. I think this movie has the very best giant ape CGI effects of any giant ape movie ever. Even better than Kong Skull Island, better than King Kong '05, better than Rampage. This is the best giant ape CGI I've ever seen in any movie. Hands fucking down. Godzilla looks great too, but he's looked good in the previous movies, and this is the best that's ever looked. So, not that much to say there, other than it just looks really good. But Kong absolutely looks phenomenal in this film. Um, the details in his fur and his skin and his face are absolutely pitch perfect and spot on. Um, you can obviously tell exactly what Kong is thinking without any spoken dialogue. You can tell if he's mad, sad, angry, happy, jolly, funny. Um, the facial work for Kong in this movie is absolutely pitch perfect. I don't know if they used motion capture for Kong, or if both Godzilla and Kong are just general animations, but it's all absolutely pitch perfect, fantastic, no flaws whatsoever. Some of the best CGI work in any giant monster movie that I've ever seen. Pitch fucking perfect in special effects. And the final pro number 10, is the great epic moments. Pretty much all of the monster fights are also great epic moments too. But there's also Mechagodzilla's first reveal, Mechagodzilla killing the Skullcrawler, Mechagodzilla slicing his way out of that mountain in Hong Kong, um, Kong killing Mechagodzilla by chopping into its head with his axe and then ripping off his fucking head, spinal cord and all, and roaring to the skies. It's fucking great. Um, Godzilla rearing his head to the sky and blowing his atomic breath all the way into Hollow Earth itself. Jesus Christ. And then when the hole is finished drilling, he just roars down there, summoning Kong to a challenge. Um, Kong versus the Warbats is great. And all three fights between Godzilla and Kong are absolutely phenomenal. Ending with one of my absolute favorite moments in any monster movie, the Godzilla and Kong roar off, as it's called. Godzilla's got Kong pinned under his foot. Um, And even though he's got a 95,000-ton mountain of a lizard standing on his chest, Kong still looks defiant. Godzilla gets all close and mean into Kong's face and roars in his face, as if trying to get him to submit. But Kong roars back in defiance, and they're just roaring in each other's face. And at that moment, Godzilla stands up, and you can tell the look on his face and the way he nods his head. Kong has earned Godzilla's respect through his defeat. He put up a good fight, and Godzilla was impressed. And that's when Godzilla just like snorts, shakes his head, takes his foot off of Kong's chest, and just walks away, leaving Kong sitting there with the shit beaten out of him, a dislocated shoulder, and just lets him pass out, leaving Godzilla the true king of the monsters. Yeah, this movie's got some great epic moments and it's entertaining as fuck. This Like I said, this movie does have a lot of very good elements to it, and there is a lot to like. But with all that being and there, I have 10 pros, so that's cool. But unfortunately, I have a lot of cons as well. I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 cons too. But first, I have two mixed elements. Number one, I'm not a big fan of the music. The music in this movie was done by Tom Holkenborg, known by his stage name Junkie XL. He's a Dutch composer. The music in this movie isn't bad by any means. There are some really good music cues. Like the music that plays during the opening title sequence is great. The music that plays during Godzilla and Kong's first and second and third fights. Mechagodzilla's reveal is really good too. And the music that plays at the very end when Godzilla goes back to the sea and Kong throws his axe down. That's really good. But the music just doesn't connect with me very strongly. It's good, but I just think I list it as unremarkable. It's not nearly as good as the music in King of the Monsters, and I don't really think it's as good as 2014's music either. It might be tied with Kong Skull Island as my least favorite score. But even though with Kong Skull Island, there's those bitching songs too that make it better as well. So actually, yeah, this is probably my least favorite score of the Monsterverse. It's not bad by any means, but it's just unremarkable. I don't connect with it very strongly. And mixed element number two, similar to Godzilla 2014, I do think that the human cast, for the most part, Bernie's funny, and I have one character that I absolutely cannot stand. But outside of those two, I think the human cast is once again just purely functional. They're just here to service the plot and get the audience from point A to point B. Nothing more. There's good actors here, like Alexander Skarsgård and the guy who plays Walter Simmons. By the way, Walter Simmons looks very Doctor Who-ish, which I really like appearance-wise. A little bit in his acting too, but he's not nearly as entertainingly over the top as Doctor Who is. But um, he almost serves as a good human villain. Like he looks the part, but he's just not in the movie that much. Hmm. But yeah, I don't think the cast is that remarkable. I just think they're purely functional. Not bad by any means. Just meh. I don't connect with them very strongly either. Okay, so con number one for Godzilla versus Kong. Josh, I hate this kid. Oh my god, I cannot absolutely stand this kid. Josh Valentine is played by Julian Dennison. He's the kid who played Fire Fist. That fucking name. He's the kid who played Fire Fist in Deadpool 2. The only other movie that I've seen him in. But I fucking hate him in this movie. He is 100% pointless. Completely superfluous to this movie's cast. When it's Team Godzilla, it should have just been Bernie and Madison. That is it. Or if you wanted to have a third one, have it be Kyle Chandler. Because he's barely fucking in this movie. But Josh absolutely feels pointless in this movie. He's also very annoying. They try to make him out to be the comic relief of this movie, but when you have Bernie over here being funny as fuck the whole time, Josh just feels so forced, superfluous, and pointless. I cannot fucking stand this kid. None of his jokes are funny. None of his quirks and ticks are funny. Every time he's on screen, I'm just like, fuck you, Josh. Get out of my movie. Get out of here. You're not funny. Go away. I cannot stand him. Fuck me. Speaking of which, no, okay, before I proceed, quite a few of my cons are going to feel very fanboy-ish. I apologize if they do feel that way, but I am a fanboy regardless, so I kind of can't help it. But I'll try to give my best reasoning for them why I have an issue with them. So just bear with me. This movie feels like it goes out of its way to kind of retcon King of the Monsters. And this goes into my third con. Godzilla feels very vilified in this movie. Um, there's just something about this movie that feels like the filmmakers and the studio just were not happy with King of the Monsters and how they handled Godzilla being a hero. So it feels like they wanted to backtrack and make Godzilla into much more of a villain and much more of the antagonist of the film, which I don't like. It goes against what they were doing for Godzilla, like wonderfully expanding on Godzilla's character and his role as the king of the monsters and the protector of the world from the last movie. But it just feels like the filmmakers are wanting to backtrack on that and then just say, nah, actually Godzilla's kind of the more wild card. He's more like a villain. He can't be trusted and blah 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 blah. It kind of feels like Gamera 3 in that aspect, which I really don't like. Not quite as much, but it just doesn't sit well with me in this film. And this goes into my fourth con for this film. Wow, is this movie a Kong film? For a Godzilla versus Kong movie, this is straight up just Kong, King of Skull Island, co-starring Godzilla. This is so much of a King Kong movie. It's not even funny. Um, Now what they do for Kong in this movie is really good. Don't get me wrong, but this movie's called Godzilla versus Kong, not King Kong plus Godzilla. As a Godzilla fan, I'm watching this literally. But most of this movie is so focused on Kong. This leads me into my next con. Con number 5. Well, no, I already talked about that, but yeah, this movie is way too in favor for Kong. This is very strongly for people who are Team Kong. That really irritates me as a Team Godzilla member. I want to watch this movie, well, for both Godzilla and Kong, but I want to see more of Godzilla. This leads me into my actual next con, the lack of Godzilla. This is an hour and 53-minute long movie. There's a lot of problems I have regarding that. I like that little reference. Anthony Sarkis is here saying, what did you think of Kong shoving the axe in Godzilla's mouth? That was a reference to Eat Your Vegetables from King Kong versus Godzilla. You can't say it wasn't. That had to have been a reference to that movie. It was funny. I did like that. It was another way of showing that Kong is really good at thinking on his feet, which is really cool. But yeah, the lack of Godzilla. This is an hour and 53-minute long movie, and I think Godzilla barely has 12, maybe 15 minutes worth of screen time at the most. Whereas Kong is front and center for like 2/3 of this movie. As a Godzilla fan, to see a Godzilla and Kong team up slash crossover movie, to have so little Godzilla screen time, it's very frustrating. Um, this has to do with another issue that I have. The fight between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla is terrible. I hate this fight. Mechagodzilla beats the ever living crap out of Godzilla in this movie. It is woeful, it's sad, it's frustrating, it's annoying, and it's pathetic. I understand that Adam Wingard has stated that Godzilla got his ass kicked because he had just gone through drilling his atomic breath all the way down to the hollow earth, and he just went through two intense fights with Kong. So Godzilla's all worn out by the time Mechagodzilla shows up. But fucking you could have put up a better fight than this. The whole time before Kong saves Godzilla's ass, Godzilla doesn't get one lick in whatsoever against Mechagodzilla. None whatsoever. Even when he unleashes his atomic breath, Mechagodzilla so easily overpowers them in a beam lock. It's absolutely pathetic, frustrating, and infuriating, honestly. I absolutely hate this fight. It's honestly worse than the fight between Batman and Superman in Batman versus Superman. Because at least Superman manages to get a few hits in against Batman. I still hate that scene. It's the worst scene in the entire DC extended universe, but it's a little bit more balanced than this. This is just pathetic. Um, Con number 7 is the lack of Mechagodzilla and the other monsters. This movie also seemingly implies that all of the rest of the Titans throughout the world are either dead or dormant for a long time now at this point, leaving just Godzilla and Kong and the Skull Crawlers, but those can be bred like rabbits. Where the hell are the rest of the monsters? That's a huge question that I have with this. Where the hell are the rest of the monsters? Like, where's Tiamat? Where's Behemoth? Where's Scylla? Where's Methuselah? Where's all these other monsters that we saw at the end of King of the Monsters and in Kingdom Kong and Godzilla Dominion? Where the hell are the rest of the monsters? Where's Rodan? Where's that Mothra egg? What the fuck? But yeah, the main problem is the lack of Mechagodzilla. You know what Mechagodzilla is in this movie? He's Doomsday from Batman versus Superman. He's a big giant threat that's saved for the last 10 minutes of the movie because that's when Mechagodzilla is really a big threat. He shows up and is fully activated in the last 15 minutes of this movie, just like Doomsday and Batman versus Superman. And also, like in that movie, he beats the living shit out of Godzilla, just like how Doomsday beats the living shit out of Superman in that film. It's pathetic. Con number 8. This movie, okay, these last 3 have to do with each other. And so many of my other problems with this movie are attributed to this last one. I'll get to that in a minute. This movie's too short. Con number 8, too damn short. This is the shortest Monsterverse movie. It's only an hour and 53 minutes. Godzilla 2014 is 2 hours and 3 minutes. Kong Skull Island is an hour and 58. King of the Monsters is 2 hours and 13. This is an hour and 53. And for a movie of this size, Godzilla versus Kong, way too fucking short. Con number 9 is that this movie feels rushed. I think that this movie is paced a bit too quickly. There's big action scene after, I can't fucking believe I'm saying this. Big action scene after big action scene after big action scene. But the movie introduces all these great ideas like Apex, the Hollow Earth, Mechagodzilla, all this shit, really cool shit that the movie introduces, but the movie feels like it's in a hurry to like, here, show this cool thing, then move on to the next thing. Show this cool thing, move on to the next thing. Show this, move on to the next thing. It feels like it's in such a rush to get through the monster action. But I also think that the monster fights are a bit too short as well. So the movie just feels like it's on hyperdrive throughout the whole movie. It just wants to hurry up and get stuff over with. It wants to show a whole bunch of cool, quick shit as possible and then be done. It never has time to breathe, and it never has time to really take its time. And this has really to do with the biggest problem that I have with this movie. Had this been rectified, so many of my issues with this movie would not be present. There is way too much missing footage from this movie. We have another Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom on our hands here. So after this movie came out, a couple months, I believe, Ryan Boy and Shawnee Boy over on Kaiju Network's channel did a big streaming series detailing every single idea and scene that was cut from this movie before it was released. And they went over all of the scenes that were deleted from this movie before its release. I don't know that much, admittedly, because I don't want to, because it'll make this movie suffer even more in my eyes. But I do know. So, to paraphrase Ryan, Adam Wingard's original outline for Godzilla vs. Kong includes 5 hours of material. Now, like what Ryan says, a lot of that does imply mostly writing. That doesn't necessarily translate into a 5 hour long Godzilla versus Kong movie. I'd watch the shit out of it, of course, but we don't need necessarily a 5 hour long Godzilla versus Kong movie. Specifically, I've heard two cuts. The editor's cut would have been 2 hours and 45 minutes, which I think would have been perfect. A perfectly length movie of this size and caliber. But then Adam Wingard's cut would have been 2 hours and 15 minutes long. Even this would have been better than the movie in its current state. As this movie currently stands, because it feels so rushed, because of the lack of Godzilla, one thing I have heard, a lot of that missing footage, almost an hour's worth of missing footage, was a lot of Godzilla footage cut in favor of making Kong look better. I also highly suspect that a lot of that footage was cut because Warner Brothers desperately needed something during pandemic times to get butts back in seats, to get some kind of big record during pandemic times, and to get some quick, easy money. So they demanded and forced a lot of cuts and reshoots for this movie to just say, hey, we need to have something, so you need to have it now. Cut this, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut this, and then throw it into theaters. It kind of reminds me of Justice League in that sense. I refuse to listen to the audio commentary by Adam Wingard for this movie because, well, while I was in the hospital having my son be born, Shawnee Boy did that for us. And he kept texting us saying, yeah, Adam Wingard said this was cut. Adam said this was cut. This was cut. This was cut. That was cut. That was cut. That was cut. That was cut. This was cut. The entire fucking audio commentary, he was talking about mostly shit that was removed from the movie more than the actual current film in and of itself. And for a movie of this size and scale, Godzilla versus Kong, two titanic monsters having a big rematch after 59 fucking years. And this is the best that you can give us. Not even a 2-hour long movie. And it's mostly a King Kong movie. Fuck you. Straight up. Yeah. That truly is the biggest problem with Godzilla versus Kong, in my opinion. There's just too much missing footage. There's too much missing from this movie's story. There's so many moments that feel so truncated and trimmed. Feel like there's just more here. There's more that they could do. There's more that can be explored with all this movie's ideas. And knowing that there's so much missing footage, I just can't help but not really be able to fully enjoy this movie because I know so much is missing from this. It's incredibly fucking frustrating whenever I watch this movie. You know, the lack of Godzilla, the lack of the Hollow Earth, the lack of the other Titans throughout the world, the lack of Mechagodzilla. So many of this movie's problems could have been fixed if we just saw the full cut. So what if it would be 2 hours and 40 minutes long? I'd watch the fuck out of it. It'd be a much better movie. So many other monster movie fans would watch that. It'd be a much better movie. You're showing more of the monsters. And it also does, in my opinion, even though Godzilla is he is the winner in defeating Kong. Okay, so this is con number 11. I don't like that Kong defeats Mechagodzilla. At least I don't like that he defeats him by himself. I would have much rather preferred it be a dual win. Both Godzilla and Kong do something to defeat Mechagodzilla. Kong could hack off most of Kong's limbs, but then Godzilla could like blow off, I don't know, one of Mechagodzilla's arms and then destroy him by firing his atomic breath through Mechagodzilla's chest, finally destroying Mechagodzilla. Give Godzilla something that's more substantial to his fight against Mechagodzilla than what he has. As he currently stands, Godzilla doesn't get shit in against Mechagodzilla. It is purely a Kong win, in my opinion, other than Godzilla charging up Kong's axe. Whoop-de goddamn do. I don't like it at all. Again, though, it's cool watching Kong defeat Mechagodzilla, but I'm Team Godzilla. I kind of sound like Trevor Boy regarding his issues with how the predators are handled in Alien versus Predator. Yeah, I don't care for how Godzilla's handled in this movie. This is clearly more of a Kong movie than it is a Godzilla movie. I get the sense that Adam Wingard is more Team Kong. But he threw in the Godzilla win as a bone for Team Godzilla people. I mean, I appreciate that at least, but the missing footage truly is this movie's biggest problem, in my opinion. Which is why I am firmly standing by that opinion of me saying, yes, this is my least favorite Monsterverse movie. At least Godzilla 2014 feels like a completed movie. Even though, according to Shawnee Boy, there is still some missing footage. I don't know what it is. So if I don't know of it, it's out of sight and out of mind. But with this movie, because of how much missing footage there is, and I know of it and I know what it is, I want to see it. I want all of that footage back into this fucking movie. And if that was to be released, I probably would love this movie way more than I do. But as it currently stands, yes, this is my least favorite Monsterverse movie. This movie was not worth waiting 59 years to see and 2 delays. It was not, unfortunately. It almost is. It comes within a hair's breadth of being worth the wait. And again, there is a lot to like about this movie, but a lot of it is so crippled truly by all of that missing footage. It really is the biggest problem with this movie just functioning as a film. There is just too much missing footage. I don't want to keep harping on it, but it really is true. It's the biggest problem with this movie. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give this movie a solid 7. There is a lot to like about this movie, and I do think it's a good film, but for the scale and scope of this movie, it's not enough, and it wasn't worth the wait, unfortunately. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very disappointed by this review, but I don't care. It only took me 2 years to get this review out, but oh well. So, with all of that being said, the Monsterverse reviews are done. Had a lot of fun, certainly. This is a really good series. Again, like the DC Extended Universe, there's not a bad movie in this series. It's just a shame that one of them is as flawed as this. Kind of call it the equivalent of 2016 Suicide Squad. But still, very good movie, very entertaining, and a good film series overall. Um, Tune in next time, taking a very brief break from Super Kaiju Binge and going into the realm of sci-fi for a movie that I've discussed a couple times, but I've never really done so in depth. Post your comments down below and let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. Go out and watch Godzilla vs. Kong. Watch the rest of the Monsterverse. If you like this movie, that's great. There's a lot that I like about it too. There's again just some crippling problems, unfortunately. And I will see you guys in the next video. And remember, guys, we need Kong. The world needs him to stop stealing Godzilla's thunder. Fuck!